with Tushia Life Ministries, and we welcome you in the name of Yeshua, our Messiah. We present sound wisdom for a successful walk as we take the light of the word to the world to edify, equip, and empower disciples and apostles of Yeshua, our Messiah. Now, you know, here in these United States, we live in a country that was never a Christian country. Doesn't matter what you've heard people say, this country was not founded as America on Christian principles. It did use many biblical principles and precepts to bring about order into this new world. But what I want to get to is, for our purpose, it's like being in Babylon. What do I mean by that? Babylon represents a belief system that operates as though Yahweh, God of the Bible, doesn't have direct influence in our lives, if he even exists. At one point in the United States, that would have been a crazy thing to say. But now, as each year passes, as each generation comes about, this is becoming a reality even where we are. We wake up one day and we realize, am I in Babylon? Yes, a world that is so far different than what the Father originally planned for us to be in. So today, we'll be talking about revealing the kingdom of God in Babylon. This is still part of using your faith, but you see, we need to learn how to be a light in Babylon. Now, last time we were together, we learned that Yahweh sent a prophet by the name of Jeremiah, and he told the people of the southern kingdom of Judah they were going to be forcefully taken away by a people with a different language and culture. But in Jeremiah 29, beginning around verse 4, 5, and 6, Yahweh's message to them was basically build houses, plant gardens, and eat their fruit, build, expand, and extend your families. In other words, settle down. You're going to be here for a while. The most important and most difficult thing is found in verse 7. Yahweh tells these people who are going to be forcefully taken to another place, seek the peace, the shalom of the city where I have caused you to be carried away captive. Yes, I'm sending you away. And these people are not good people, but when you get there, pray to me for them. For in the shalom of this place, you will have shalom. So in other words, don't get there praying, saying, oh God, get me out of this mess. Oh God, come and rescue us. He said, you're going to be here a while. And you're here because there's some things I had instructed you to do, and you have not done them. For over 490 years, there is something I've asked you to do that you didn't do. One of those things happened to be the Sabbath rest. Every 7 years, the land of Israel was to get a rest year. And for 490 years, you didn't do that. So God took out his calculator and he said, let me see, 490 divided by 7, that'll be 70 years. And that's where the 70 comes from. But that's not the only reason. The other reason is he says, I am Yahweh, your Elohim. I've taken you out of the land of bondage, out of Mitzrayim, that's Egypt. I've taken you out of there. You will have no other gods before me. And doggone it, man, beginning with the split of the kingdom under a man named Jeroboam, when there was a northern kingdom and a southern kingdom, he began putting people into rampant idolatry. And the majority of kings in Judah followed right along. So because of this rampant idolatry, because there was no giving of the land rest, Judah was going to be moved to a new place called Babylon, where they were supposed to become a light. In Daniel chapter 1, Yahweh gives Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar. He was king of Babylon, who besieged Jerusalem and took the vessels from their temple to the land of Shinar, which is in Mesopotamia, to the house of his God. A siege is when an army surrounds a place where people are, so they cannot come in or go out. They can't get any more new food or anything like that. And so basically they wait it out. The people start starving, and then they go in and conquer the weakened people. The king wanted to select some youth from among the exiles to eat from his special portions. and his special wine. After 3 years of this, they were going to stand before the king. And among these were 4 young men that we will really be reading about and focusing on today. Among these exiles, there was a guy named Daniel, whom they gave a new name as Belteshazzar, Hananiah, whom they renamed Shadrach, Mishael, whom they renamed Meshach, and Azariah, who they renamed Abednego. Regarding the food that was offered to them, brought about the first conflict in this new land. The king's portions were known to be things that have been offered to idols, and that the idol would actually have blessed the food. Then they would take the wine before the idol, and the idol would be believed to bless the wine, and then the king would eat it. And so this is what they wanted Daniel and his friends and the other people that were selected to eat. Well, Daniel had a problem with this. One, might have been the content of what was in there, might have been some things like pork, or that is, swine is a better word for it, swine and other things that they were not supposed to eat, in addition to the fact they were specifically and directly, the food was offered to idols. So Daniel said, I don't plan to defile myself. I'm in a new place. I have to learn a new language. I have to learn a new culture. They've given me a new name. I can work with all that. But when you've asked me to eat this food that was offered to idols and probably of unclean nature, some of it, no. So what did he do? Did he rant? Did he rave? No. He went and appealed to the prince of the eunuchs. And in case you don't know what a eunuch is, it is a man who has had his private parts partially or completely removed. And the reason they do this, one, that their captors show that they are in control. Two, it also brings about a weakness and loss of strength and loss of bone density. So if there was an uprising, the eunuchs wouldn't be very good in a fight at all, because they wouldn't really have the strength to do so. And so, yes, the captives that they chose, who were normal young men, had been turned into eunuchs in Babylon. But God gave Daniel favor in the sight of the prince of the eunuchs. But he told him, but Daniel, if I don't feed you this food, if I disobey the king and your faces look worse than the other youths, it would put my head on the chopping block. So then Daniel spoke to the next person that was closer to them, the steward, and said, listen, how about this? Give us 10 days, give us vegetables and water to eat. Then check us out. If we don't look right, then do what you need to do at that point in time. Well, after the 10 days, their faces appeared fairer and healthier than all the other youth. God gave these 4, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, as we've come to know them, knowledge and skill in all learning and wisdom. Daniel had understanding in visions and dreams. And at the end of the 3 years that this training was supposed to take place, the prince of the eunuchs brought them to Nebuchadnezzar. As he talked with them, he found none like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, or Azariah. So they were selected to stand before the king. And in every matter of wisdom and understanding concerning which the king asked them, they were 10 times better than all their magicians and their enchanters in all of his realm. A magician, not so much like we know magicians, but they were diviners. They would draw circles, or they would try and interpret symbols and signs and omens and things like that. And then the enchanters, they were primarily necromancers, that is, those who would consult with or speak to the dead. But these were the kind of people that were in Babylon. But because Daniel and his 3 friends, men, they were all men, not Hebrew boys, because they were willing to follow what Yahweh had given them, and he told them how to live in this new place, they were given honor and respect, and they were elevated. But then we move to Daniel chapter 3. Nebuchadnezzar, the king, made an image of gold, 90 feet tall, 9 feet wide, okay? Really, really big. And he set it up in the plain of a place called Dura in the province of Babel. Now, Nebuchadnezzar gather all the rulers in his provinces to come to the dedication of this image, this statue that he had set up. The people were told, when you hear all kinds of music, fall down and worship this golden statue. And whoever doesn't do this will be thrown into the middle of a burning fiery furnace. So when all the people heard the sound and all this music, they fell down and they worshiped the golden statue. That is, except for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. King Nebuchadnezzar was hot. In his rage and fury, he said, I'm going to give you one more chance to worship this idol. They respectfully told him, if it be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. But if he doesn't, be it known, O king, we will not serve your gods, nor worship the golden statue. Then Nebuchadnezzar was hot, and he wanted the furnace as hot as he was. And so they heated the furnace 7 times hotter than usual. And he had his mighty men from his army tie up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and then throw them into the fiery furnace. They were then thrown into the furnace, tied up with all their clothes on, and the flames of the furnace, because it was so hot, killed the men who put them in there. Then Nebuchadnezzar came near the furnace. Apparently, it must have cooled down a bit for him to do this, and he asked, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, you servants of the Most High God, come out here. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came on out, and everyone could see the fire didn't hurt them. Talk about a change, because the light had been shown in Babylon. He spoke and said, blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who sent his angel and delivered his servants who trusted in him. They have changed the king's word and given their bodies that they would not serve nor worship any god except their own. Do you see this? This king who had the power over the whole area where they were was shown by God that he's not the greatest in the universe. So Nebuchadnezzar says, I'm going to make a decree. If any people, nation, or any language speaks anything amiss against their God, they'll be cut in pieces, and their houses will be turned into a dunghill. That is a garbage dump, because there is no other God who is able to deliver like this. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babel. They were elevated because they were willing to even learn a new language, learn a new culture, have themselves relabeled, because people were trying to change their entire identity. They said, you can go ahead and try, but one thing you need to know, I know who I am. And because they know they were children of the Most High God, they were willing to go through whatever they had to go through, but there were still boundaries that they were willing to say, you know what, if this costs me my life, then I have to stand. And they were in some pretty serious predicaments. And I don't know how we would do in that situation. But one thing I tell you, you can't think now of what you'd be like then, because you're thinking about all the fear and all the danger and all the other things that might be a part of that. But it's in that moment. If you have been learning to walk with the Father, with his Son, we grow a dependence upon him and them, those two, so that we are able to, when we're faced with these kind of situations, we know I'm going to stand upon the word God has given me, because he is faithful, he is holy, and he really is the one in charge. Make no mistake about that. One more example of a light in Babylon. Daniel. He had been elevated to one of 3 presidents when a new king had come. His name was Darius. These 3 presidents were responsible for the 120 regions of the kingdom. That is, the Medes and the Persians had come in and conquered Babylon, and now they were in control. And they ruled all the way from India and all the way to Egypt and all those parts in between. One thing to note is that even though Daniel was one of the 3 presidents, he was distinguished above the others and the satraps, which were the 120 people that were over those regions, because an excellent spirit was found in him. And the king was thinking about setting him over the whole realm. Hey, doesn't that remind you of a guy named Joseph? When Pharaoh, the king, said, I think I'm going to put you next to me, and the only person greater than you is me. That means that the other presidents and all the satraps were going to have to report to Daniel. Oh man, they weren't ready to have that at all. Not at all. The other 122 leaders, 2 presidents and 120 satraps, needed a way to get rid of Daniel. You see, Daniel was known to pray 3 times a day to Yahweh, God of Israel, and the only thing they could find against him was his prayer time. So they came up with a plan. All the presidents, minus Daniel, of course, the deputies, satraps, counselors, governors, they all consulted together. So it was more than 122 people. All of these people got together to establish a royal statute and make a strong interdict, that is a new law, or like we call them ordinances, that whoever shall ask a petition of any god or man for 30 days, 30 days, save you, O king, he shall be cast into the den of lions. So King Darius thought it was a good idea. He signed it into law. I don't know about you, but I kind of wonder, so does that mean there's no borrowing cups of sugar and butter? Well, another story. Well, Daniel, he was aware that there was a new law signed, and Daniel did what Daniel did. He went into his home, kneeled by the open window facing Jerusalem, kneeled and prayed and gave thanks to his God as he did before. That's what he did. Well, guess what? Those guys were looking and they ran and told the king, hey, Daniel is asking, he's making a petition of someone other than you, king. He's not coming to you, king. He's asking someone else. And there are people like that in your life. They're looking at patterns in your life that cause them to feel really uncomfortable about themselves because they're walking in darkness at a time you're walking in light. And they're like, I got to find a way to get over you, overcome you, get you out of my environment because I'm just not comfortable around you. Well, the king, who really liked Daniel, found out that they put him in a catch-22. They made him sign something into law, and the law of the Medes and the Persians were written in such a way that even the king couldn't revoke the law once he signed it. It was locked in. King Darius, he really, really didn't like it. And he tried, they say, all that day to find a way to get Daniel out of this situation. And he couldn't. And so he had to have Daniel placed into the lion's den. I think if you're going to execute me, can you use arrows or, just slice the head? Because that thing with the lions does not sound cool at all. After a night of worrying and fasting, yes, the king was worrying and fasting. He got up early to see if there was any way that Daniel survived the night. When the king came near the lion's den, he said, Daniel, servant of the living God. This is how he addressed him. Is your God, whom you serve continually, able to deliver you from the lion? He was outdone with himself because he didn't want anything to happen to the man he had come to greatly favor and respect. Just quiet for a moment. Then Daniel said to the king, O king, live forever. Wait a minute. Say, hey man, get me out of here. No. He knew what Yahweh had said. You bless these people. You pray to these people, pray to me, to these people, because their peace, in their peace, will be your peace. Daniel goes on and says, my God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths, and they've not hurt me. Because as before him, innocence was found in me, and also before you, O king, have I done no hurt. I have not done anything wrong. The king was glad. And what happened next? The king commanded, and they brought those men, which was a lot of men, who had accused Daniel, and they cast them into the lion's den. And in case that's all you heard of the story, when you read about it in Daniel chapter 6, he cast those men into the lion's den, their children and their wives. And the lions had mastery. That is, the lions had broken their bones to pieces before they could hit the bottom of the den. Because of their evil, they were destroyed. Then King Darius wrote to all the peoples, nations, and languages that were in his land. He says, Shalom, or peace be multiplied to you. I make a decree that in all the dominion of my kingdom, men tremble and fear before the God of Daniel. He didn't say before me. He didn't say before my gods. He says, you tremble and fear before the God of Daniel. For he is the living God and steadfast forever. His kingdom, that which shall not be destroyed, and his dominion shall be even to the end. He delivers and rescues, and he works signs and wonders in heaven and in earth, who has delivered Daniel from the power of the lions. This was another evil, ruthless king who had conquered another nation, who said, hey, I will respect and give honor to the God of heaven and to anyone who truly serves him. And I think what the Father wants us to realize is that if we're willing and when we're willing to show other people, like Yeshua says, when you speak of me before people, I will speak of you before my Father. When you show that you want to be steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the word, work, and way of the Father, then there's a word in heaven, the courts of heaven, on your behalf, according to the purpose that God has. And here, because Daniel let his light shine and was willing to do so in a den of lions, he was prospered during the reign of Darius and into the next king, whose name was Cyrus. We live in tough times, and I know that some things affect us differently, directly than other things, but God wants us, as we're in our Babylon, he wants us to live life according to the instructions he has given us to live. He wants us to pray for those people that we are around, that good things happen in their lives. Yes, that good things happen in their lives. Not that he break their neck and cause them to fall downstairs and things like that. He wants us to get to know these people. Remember, he says, get there, get used to being there, start to live your life there. Do you know why he was doing that? I have to tell you why as we come to a close. Because if they had fought against their captors, that is, if the exiled Judeans had fought against their captors, kind of like what we see in Roots or other movies about people who are taken as slaves, if they fought against them, then the people would have just been more harsh on them. But as they began to show themselves willing to work with them and in this new environment, after all that had been done to them, the people would then change their heart toward them and begin to say, well, okay, because remember, he said, build houses. What you gonna build houses with? You were just taken away from your country. You don't have anything. You're going to need something. Sure, go ahead and ask your captors, I don't like you, but give me something so I can build a house. Not going to happen. But as they began to see, this is a good worker. Oh, he's really helpful. And he says good things about me and my family. And he asked for a few pieces of wood to build a shack. Sure. And it grows and it grows and it grows. You don't know how much favor you have until you allow God's instructions to fill you and your hands do them. Then when a difficult situation comes about, then you'll see what God does on your behalf that will make other people see that there's a light in you that they must respect. Everyone might not even go along with it. But see, it doesn't matter about everyone. It matters most about those who are in leadership, who have responsibility and control over things in your life. That's right. Supervisors, managers, presidents, companies, those are the people that determine what can happen if you're working on a job in any way, shape, or form. And if you're not, there's still people who have governance over and around your life. Are we praying for them? That's what we should do, because we want their peace to allow us to have our peace, that we might dwell among them in peace. Shalom.